The phone call came at 2:17 a.m., when the world was asleep and my mind was finally quiet. I answered, expecting a wrong number or a drunk prank. Instead, a calm voice on the other end said, "This is Mercy General Hospital. We need to speak with Michael Turner. You're listed as the emergency contact for Olivia Reed." My heart stopped. Olivia was my ex, my past, my mistake, my greatest regret. I hadn't spoken to her in years. The words that followed felt like someone had ripped open a wound I didn't know was still bleeding. "She has weeks to live." I remember standing in the kitchen with the phone pressed to my ear, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead like a relentless reminder of reality. The hospital staff explained that Olivia had been admitted with advanced liver failure. She was alone, and because I was still listed as her emergency contact, I was the only person they could call. The strange part wasn't that she was sick. It was the fact that, even after everything between us, her life still had my name attached to it. My first instinct was to hang up, to pretend I never received the call, to let the past remain buried. But then I heard the word alone, and I realized that even if she didn't want me, she still needed someone. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of doing what's right even when it hurts, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. I drove to Mercy General in a daze, the city streets of Houston feeling strange and empty. It was late winter, and the air had that cold, sharp bite that makes every breath feel like a small punishment. I parked in the visitor lot and walked inside like I was walking into a dream I didn't want to have. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. I could hear distant monitors beeping, the quiet shuffle of nurses, and the muffled sob of someone who had lost their fight. The nurse at the desk asked for my name and then stared at me for a moment, like she could see my entire life in my expression. She told me Olivia was in room 412. She also warned me that I might not recognize her. "She's been through a lot," she said softly. "Her body is weak." My mind raced back to the day we broke up. Olivia and I had been young, full of dreams and promises that sounded beautiful in the moment. But our love was fragile. We fought over small things and pretended they didn't matter until the resentment became a wall. I was ambitious, always chasing the next goal, the next promotion. She wanted stability, love, and time. I didn't give her enough of any. We broke up bitterly, and I told myself I'd never look back. Now, standing outside her room, I felt the weight of every regret I'd ever tried to bury. I opened the door and saw her lying there, pale and fragile, a thin blanket covering her like a fragile shield. She looked smaller than I remembered, as if life had drained her of everything except her eyes. The oxygen tube in her nose made her look like someone in a different world. I swallowed hard. The woman who once laughed loudly at the movies and danced around the kitchen was now quiet and barely breathing. I approached slowly, afraid that my presence would cause her pain. I took a seat beside the bed and looked at her hand. Once warm, once full of life, now cold and trembling. I remembered the nights we spent together, the plans we made, the dreams we swore we'd build. I remembered how she used to call me Michael in a way that made me feel like I was the center of her universe. Now, she barely looked at me. The room was silent except for the soft beep of the monitor and the faint whisper of her breathing. The doctor came in a few minutes later. He was kind but direct. He explained that Olivia had been avoiding treatment for months. She had been hiding her pain, pretending she was fine, and now the damage was irreversible. He told me the truth in the kindest way possible. She had weeks left, maybe less. The disease had taken over. He asked if I wanted to be updated, and if I could make decisions on her behalf. I felt a wave of guilt so strong it almost knocked me off the chair. I had walked away when she needed someone. I had let my pride win, and now, when she was dying, she had no one else. The doctor's words were heavy, but they also felt like a second chance. Not a chance to get back what we lost, but a chance to do what I should have done years ago. Over the next days, I stayed by her side. I learned the routine of the hospital, the way nurses moved with quiet efficiency, the way time felt slower and heavier inside those walls. I watched Olivia's condition worsen, and I felt helpless. Every time she opened her eyes, I felt like she was searching for something. Maybe forgiveness, maybe a familiar face, maybe the love she once trusted. I wanted to give her everything, but the truth was, I didn't have enough to fix what was broken. But I didn't leave. I sat with her even when she was unresponsive. I brought her small things from home, a blanket, a book of poetry she once loved, a photo of us from when we were happy. I spoke to her quietly, even if she couldn't respond. I told her about the life she had missed, about the dream she still deserved. I apologized for leaving her. I admitted my faults. I told her that she deserved more than what I gave her, and that I was sorry I wasn't the man she needed. One night, as the rain fell outside the hospital window, Olivia's eyes opened. She looked at me, and for a moment, I felt like I was back in our old apartment, listening to her laugh. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. I leaned closer and held her hand. She squeezed my fingers just barely, and I felt something inside me shift. It wasn't love in the way I used to know it. It was something deeper, an understanding of how fragile life is and how much pain we can carry silently. She didn't say much, but her eyes told me everything. She wasn't angry anymore. She was tired. She was afraid. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to know that she mattered. I realized that I had never really understood her pain until now. I had always been too busy to notice. The days passed, and Olivia's condition continued to decline. The hospital staff told me she had only weeks left. I felt the weight of that statement every single time I heard it. Weeks, not years, not months, just weeks. It made every moment feel precious, like each breath she took was a gift. During this time, I also learned something that changed me forever. Olivia had been struggling with addiction and depression for years. She had been too ashamed to ask for help. She had been hiding her pain behind a smile, pretending she was fine. She didn't want anyone to see her fall apart. I realized that her silence wasn't weakness. It was survival, and I had been too blind to notice. One afternoon, a social worker visited and asked me if there was anyone else in her life who could be contacted. I shook my head. Olivia had cut herself off from everyone. Her family had stopped answering her calls. Her friends had moved on. She was alone, and I was the only person who remained in her records. The social worker looked at me with compassion, as if she understood the heavy burden I carried. I stayed with Olivia until the end. The final moments were quiet, peaceful in a way that felt almost holy. I held her hand as she took her last breath, and I felt my heart break in a way I never knew was possible. I cried, not just for the loss, but for the years we wasted, for the chance we never took, for the love that was too late. After she passed, the nurse thanked me for staying. She told me that Olivia had asked for me in her last days, even though she didn't say it out loud. She had wanted someone who understood her, someone who would not abandon her when she needed them most. I felt a mixture of sorrow and relief. I was sorry she had to die alone, but I was grateful I could be there for her at the end. I left the hospital that night feeling a different man. I had come in as a guilty ex-boyfriend, and I left as someone who had finally learned what it meant to love without conditions. I realized that kindness isn't just about being nice when it's easy. It's about staying when it's hard. It's about being there for someone even when they don't deserve it. A few weeks later, I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the photo of Olivia and me from years ago. I still felt the pain, but it was different now. It was a pain that taught me something. It reminded me that life is fragile and that we should never wait to show people we care. If there's someone in your life you've pushed away, don't wait until it's too late. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video. And if you felt the emotions in this story, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next inspiring story. Before we end, I want to ask you a special favor. Please comment below with the name of someone you're grateful for today and tell them you love them. Because sometimes the greatest kindness we can offer is simply being there.